The way I've lived my life as a nomad capitalist has changed a lot over the last more than a decade, from starting out as a business traveler, becoming a perpetual traveler, and now being someone who has bases around the world and has the chance to work with and learn from highly successful business owners who want to do the same. And in this video, I'm going to tell you how to avoid ending up in what I call the nomad bubble. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson, and I was in Kuala Lumpur, one of the places where I spend time recently, and a guy came up to me, nice guy from Austin, Texas. He said, "Are you Andrew? Or you're the Nomad Capitalist?" I'm sitting at Starbucks, and he says, "You know, I wouldn't imagine that you'd be all the way on the other side of the world sitting at a Starbucks." But I'm going to tell you exactly why it actually makes perfect sense. You see, when I started out on this journey a long time ago, I did the travel. I went and looked at the banks. I went and looked at immigration options. I went and looked at different ways to diversify and, as we say, go where you're treated best. And then I got into perpetual travel, and I started off learning all the stuff that I know now by spending a month at a time in each country and taking 1-week trips, 2-week trips, really ingratiating myself, building a network, learning how things worked across almost 100 countries. But now that I know that, now that I've got a team, now that they help me with that, and now that we have the whole foundation for helping people, I've done what I've called the trifecta, where I have a couple different places, 3 different places where I spend time. I travel regionally from each of those bases, and I live a pretty normal life. I'm no longer dragging a suitcase from country to country, living in one hotel, living in another. In fact, I've cut the number of nights in hotels from over 200 just last year to probably about 60 or 70 this year. And so when this gentleman comes up to me and says, "I wouldn't expect you to be sitting at Starbucks," I think that it's indicative of a bit of a flawed perception that people have about the nomad capitalist lifestyle. I've seen this especially as we've worked with the higher 6-figure and 7-figure business owners. These people come to me and say, "Andrew, we love the tax reduction part, we love the lower cost of living, we love more freedom, growing our wealth, we love all that, but we don't want to be dragging a suitcase because that's not going to let us run our business." And it's true. It's hard to run a multi-million-dollar business when you're in a different hotel room and you're always on planes all the time. So what I found is there's a power of routine for being a nomad capitalist. You know, if you grew up going to Starbucks, and it's not really unreasonable to think that when you go to another city, even halfway around the world, you're going to go to Starbucks occasionally. Even, God forbid, you're going to go to McDonald's every once in a while, or you're going to go to places that make you feel comfortable. Now, when I live in Kuala Lumpur, I like to eat local foods. I like to go to local restaurants. I love Indian food. I like to be part of the local culture. But the reality is, people who have worked for me in the past, people who, when I was just traveling around and meeting people who weren't quite as successful, they were saying, "Hey, you're traveling. You have to, be eating the local food every day. You've got to be drinking the local beer. You've got to be doing everything local." And the reality is, what I've learned over the years is that there's a difference between tourism, there's a difference between travel, and there's a difference between living. Those are kind of the 3 elements. A lot of people who live this nomad lifestyle, they started out, doing the tourism. That's what I started doing. I just started going, and I would make it a business tourism. I would go and learn stuff, but it was tourism, and I would do touristy stuff, and I would take touristy photos, and I would integrate, going and seeing the local attractions or having the local dish alongside meeting with a banker or meeting with a lawyer or an accountant. But then you go to the travel, you become a perpetual traveler, and you realize, okay, now I'm just traveling, and I can do the things that I want. I'll take in some of the local culture, but I'm not going to be a tourist. And then eventually you can graduate to living, where you just say, "You know what? For 4 months a year, I live in Kuala Lumpur, and I'm going to do what I want to do." And so if that means I'm just going to go to the mall, or I'm going to go and get a cup of coffee, or I'm going to go and get a hamburger, that's perfectly cool. And so the reality is, if you want to start out as the tourism level, that's okay. If you want to start out at the travel level, that's cool too. If you want to jump right to the living level, that's possible as well. And what I find is more and more people at the 6- and 7-figure level, they just want to jump right to living. And people think, well, hey, that guy, all these guys I see on YouTube who are in Chiang Mai, they're with the monkeys, they're taking pictures next to a drunken tiger, they're doing whatever it is that they do. That's the tourism part, right? And people think, well, if I want to be a nomad, that's what I've got to do. I've got to, work 1 hour a day and have a place on the beach, and my laptop is in front of a pina colada, and that's cool. But for most people, the benefits of the nomad capitalist lifestyle, not a digital nomad lifestyle, which is fine too, but the nomad capitalist lifestyle is about going where you're treated best. Lower taxes, more freedom, greater wealth, ability to create wealth. And that a lot of times fits better in with somewhere in that travel and living vibe, where maybe you live in Kuala Lumpur, but you don't want to eat tropical fruits. You want to eat strawberries, and you're willing to pay more, and you're saving so much money by not living in your home country and by having those tax savings that, hey, even if you pay $10 for strawberries, it's worth it. People sometimes get confused, and I had a guy tell me the other day, he said, Andrew, you're the only guy with nomad in your title that I really resonate with, because I don't want to seek minimalism. I don't want to go and eat bowls of rice every day. Now, I'm not saying that if that's what you want to do, you shouldn't. I'm not saying you should spend money that you don't have to just because someone said you should. What I'm saying is give yourself permission and understand that you can give yourself permission, that it's okay to live in that bubble. If people say, oh, you're living in the bubble, you're in the expat bubble, nothing wrong with living well, because you know what? If you were living in New York and you're living in Manhattan, you're living on the Upper East Side, you're probably not spending a lot of time in the Bronx. You're probably not spending a lot of time in the middle of Long Island. You're living in a bubble there. And so what people who are in the tourist phase will do is they'll say, okay, you're in the Starbucks bubble, you're in the fancy restaurant bubble, I like to go to Nobu in Kuala Lumpur, right? You're in the bubble. You're in a bubble. You're sheltered from the local culture. But the reality is, if you live in a nice neighborhood in London, New York City, Sydney, wherever, you're probably in a bubble there too. And I think that it's reasonable to give yourself permission to say, you know what, I'm going to do what I want to do. And if other people don't understand and they want to call that a bubble, they want to label that a bubble, that's okay. So many people have defined the nomad space of some of the travel and tourist stuff, when in reality it's a great way to spend less money, eat at nice restaurants for a fraction of the cost of what you'd pay in London or New York, have the freedom, have people treat you better, go where you're treated best, but without having to change all that stuff about your lifestyle. So understand that if you embark in living this lifestyle, you can still do the stuff that you want to do now. You don't have to drag a bag behind you. You can pick 1 or 2 or 3 places to live and live exactly as you are now, but live much better. And if that makes it a bubble, then so be it. I'm Andrew Henderson, and if you're looking for a way to legally reduce your taxes, build your freedom, and create wealth faster as a global citizen, then you've come to the right place. I want you to do 3 things right now. Number 1, click the button to subscribe to our channel. Make sure to get notifications so you never miss a new video. Number 2, get a copy of our #1 best-selling book, Nomad Capitalist, on Amazon, and learn all of the dozens of benefits of our lifestyle. And number 3, if you're already a 6 or 7-figure entrepreneur and you want to put these strategies in place, go to nomadcapitalist.com and find out how to get some help.